Welcome back to the NutriMedical Report Live for the 22nd of May. And, of course, it's my second oldest son's birthday, so happy birthday, Stephen. We want to welcome back Bill Salus. And, of course, his amazing website is Prophecy Depot, not Home Depot, but Prophecy Depot. And he has one of the most unique books, which is not only a novel called Revelation Road, but also a study guide and scriptural guide to give you an idea so you can start to use, as God says, your two witnesses, your intellect and your spiritual discernment to know what's going on and what's likely to happen in the near future. Welcome back to the program, Bill.
Bill, thanks for having me back.
So we have lots of things going on. We had a good introduction last time. We have a lot of issues happening. It looks like the globalists have kind of hogtied the Western world. There's at least 4 nations in North America and South America that have lots of oil. We see the situation where there's a contrived global depression. We have all these things happening, including a move gradually toward biometric world currency and the impending war in the Middle East, including the possible division of the city of Jerusalem and so on happening in the not-too-distant future. Let's go through your book on Revelation Road and the thesis behind it and how people can get a copy.
Okay, great. Yeah, actually, Revelation Road is book 1 in a trilogy that escorts the reader between now and through the end times and ultimately the return of Jesus Christ and his second coming prophesied. The first book primarily deals with the events that I believe are about to happen soon and sequentially, each powerful event building one upon another, which would be the Middle East wars of the Arab-Israeli War of Psalm 83, the destruction of Damascus in Isaiah 17, the Israeli nuclear strike of Iran in Jeremiah 49, and then that all followed by the Gog of Magog invasion of Ezekiel 38. And ultimately, as the book series progresses, you get into the final Armageddon campaign and the end of the tribulation period. And it's a book that's designed for more just than Christian reading, because it is laid out in both a novel and a biblical commentary that supports what I say in the novel, so that it could be of interest to not only just Christians, but also to people who are concerned about what's going on in the world and if the Bible has anything to say about the days in which we live.
In other words, you've written it so that you can take a secular audience, show them that because the prophetic word is being revealed, that this book, the Bible, is God's book, and that he has a plan, even though we're going through the fire of a very difficult time.
Well, exactly, and ultimately, the comforting news is, one, if God knew these things were coming and predicted them with 100% accuracy, that means he's still in control. Two, that his Bible is a go-to device for us. I mean, it is inerrant, it's holy. And three, that if he knows all this, that he ultimately has a plan for us, and of course that's in redemption with Jesus, but also the Messianic kingdom that he says is going to come forward, that where we'll have a restored Garden of Eden scenario, and we pick that up in Isaiah 11 and other places. So it's yes, these are threatening times, but we have a God who's in control that has big plans for eternity.
Exactly. In other words, don't be nervous. God's on the throne.
I'm sorry.
Don't be nervous. God's on the throne. In other words.
Absolutely. And the book is available through, like you said, my website, prophecydepot.com. It's on Amazon.com. It's in actually quite a few Christian bookstores at this point as well. We're trying to get it more into the Barnes & Nobles and other stores. It's available through them, but we're now getting it distributed to them over the next month or two.
Now, we have Bibi Netanyahu, who's basically stated there's no way he's going to divide the state. In 1980, the Israeli Knesset passed a law that they were not going to give East Jerusalem back. We see moves back in year 2000 with Ariel Sharon that marched around a year after the Al-Aqsa Intifada started, that around the Temple Mount on Yom Teruah, the first day of the Jewish New Year, saying that the Jews were going to soon have access to the Temple Mount and that they would rebuild the temple. There's been a foundation there to rebuild the temple. The latest is the expansion of the areas in Har Homa and another area just south of Jerusalem, in the outskirts, where they've just approved another 2,600 homes. How do you see the current events happening in the Mideast with the rise of power of Bibi Netanyahu, who's now got a majority with a new type of government that basically is not going to be fractured like previous governments, and the impending war against the 200,000 rockets aimed at it from Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria. In Syria, I believe that they need to increase the sanctions, not just against these countries, but we have, for example, the Kirk Amendment against China that allows China to buy oil from Iran, Why is China being given a free pass? Why are they buying oil at $2 a barrel from Iraq, not for the Iraqi people, and selling it at over $90 a barrel? How come the Chinese are given a free pass by the globalists when if we completely squeezed all the nations trading with Iran and Syria, we could soon disable these missiles? Because if they do start firing missiles at Israel, Israel's going to retaliate and annihilate them, and they will do the Samson option.
Well, you just mentioned a whole bunch of different points and a flurry of questions, and I think really
that's them all out so you can pick up whatever one you want.
I like a full menu of questions. I think really what it's boiling down to is that when diplomacy fails, war begins. There's been no more peace talks between the Arabs and the Jews. There's the things that are going on with the P5+1 and the IAEA trying to negotiate with Iran to talk them down on their nuclear program. All of these things are not working. They're buying more time so that the enemies of Israel can become more armed and more dangerous. You mentioned a couple 100,000 rockets pointed at Israel. Well, Hezbollah has about 60,000 of those, and they are a avowed enemy of Israel. I think what we're talking about here, Dr. Deagle, is that the world is about to face an apocalyptic time, and it was predicted, and it's going to have devastating effects on the world. It's not just going to be another regional conflict, a meager skirmish between Hezbollah and Israel or Hamas and Israel. The potential for what we're talking about is a nuclear Middle East, whereby the flow of oil gets shut off and faltering economies go into a global tailspin. And so, if we kind of step outside of that and see the forest from the trees, we're looking at collapses, increased natural disasters. We're looking at the EU falling apart, especially in Greece. Italy will be next. We're looking at America's country falling from morality, and our economy our deficit is unbelievable. There's really nothing that's going on right now that is not pointing to the fact that we are deep into what the Bible talks about as the last days, a central theme within the Bible. And so when these things start to happen, how do we deal with them? How do we understand them? How do we get Jesus in front of people in a harvest field that will be developing? Because it's about to happen. I mean, everything you mentioned centers upon the fact that we're in it. We're in that final generation, in my estimation, that Christ said in Matthew 24 that would not pass until the whole flurry of Bible prophecies happened, and one of them, of course, was the super sign of the restoration of the nation of Israel. He summed that up in a parable of a fig tree in verse 32 of Matthew 24. So here we are, Dr. Deagle. What do we do? I mean, where do you want to start talking? I can just say
and of course, the fig tree, interestingly, is another one of his parables are often prophecies, too. And one of them was a parable when it was actually a story where he was out and he cursed the fig tree because when he went by it because he was hungry, there were no figs. And so we have Israel that's returned to the nation. There's a tiny fraction of Torah Jews, but the nation of Israel has to do a lot of repenting because there's a lot of judgment on the nation of Israel at the time of Jacob's trouble that is about to happen to Israel. But Israel will come out victorious, but it's going to go through some very, very bad times and judgment.
Well, you're absolutely right. And, initially my first book, Revelation Road, since we're dealing with the soon-coming prophecies, it doesn't really tackle too much about what will ultimately happen to Israel. We're told in Daniel 12 that, and one of the things Daniel fret and stewed about was that he understood that the power of the holy people his people was going to be basically destroyed in the tribulation period, and he was very concerned about it. And the Lord said to him, "Well, seal this vision up. It's really for the future generation to discern and to understand." But you're right. Israel is going to be judged. And that will happen in the tribulation period. But between now and then, we have Israel in the land being brought back into the land, which is a fulfillment of several Bible prophecies. I can rifle off where you can find those, but the fact is, Israel is back in the land. It's a miraculous endeavor that the Lord said he would undertake to bring the Jews back into the land. They're meeting with enemies, and ancient Arab hatred that never went away has been revived. It's under the canopy of Islam.
We're on our way out.
You may have heard about taking silver supplements for better health, but not all silver supplements are alike. Silver 100 with OptiSilver from NutriMedical.com is an ionic silver citrate complex and is unparalleled as the most powerful pathogen killer available. Silver 100 with OptiSilver is not colloidal silver or nanoparticle silver. It's better, and here's why. Silver 100 is thousands of times stronger than any other silver product available and is far more efficient than all other forms of silver, including colloidal silver. And because of its superior efficiency, Silver 100 with OptiSilver is more economical. Clear your body of hidden microorganisms that cause illness by using Silver 100 with OptiSilver from Dr. Bill Deagle's NutriMedical.com. Order online at NutriMedical.com or call 888-212-8871. That's 888-212-8871. Or go to NutriMedical.com, spelled N-U-T-R-I Medical.com. NutriMedical.com, bringing nutrition and medicine together.
Hi, this is Peter Cronschnabel from Midas Resources. As you know, federal government spending is at an all-time high, and inflation will be a direct result of the spending policy. European government and central bank spending policies have put the European Union on the brink of collapse. What are you doing right now to protect yourself financially? Are your assets working for you or against you? One thing is certain. Having physical possession of gold and silver will guarantee that no matter what happens to our economy or the dollar, your investment will never be worthless. And it will protect you from that hidden tax, inflation. If you've been thinking about investing in physical possession of precious metals or having an IRA in precious metals, I can help. Call me today, Peter Cronschnabel at 800-686-2237, extension 108. And I'll take the time to personally put together a portfolio designed to protect what you've worked so hard for. Call 800-686-2237, extension 108. You've worked hard your whole life, and I want to work hard for you. Call Peter at 800-686-2237, extension 108.
37 things to hoard. Do you have the 37 crucial food items you can't survive without? When the next disaster hits and the mobs go crazy grabbing food off the shelves, you and your family may be without food or waiting in long food lines. Prepare now at 123survivalplan.com. Easy as 123 to remember. 123survivalplan.com. Many people don't have these 37 food items. Learn what you need to hoard now at 123survivalplan.com. Watch the video we've set up for Patriots only at 123survivalplan.com. Get inside information on the 37 food items that will sell out first when the next disaster strikes. This video contains crucial information you and your family need to prepare for any natural or man-made disaster. In the last 6 months, over 1 million other smart patriots have already seen this video. Prepare now. Go to 123survivalplan.com and learn which 37 food items you should hoard. Easy to remember. 123survivalplan.com. Again, that's 123survivalplan.com.
Healthy soils grow healthy plants. So before you plant your survival garden this year, is your soil healthy? Maximize your crisis garden soil with EM1 from TerraGanix. EM1 Organic Soil Conditioner, Fertilizer Amendment, and Compost Accelerant provides healthier gardens and faster, efficient garden composting. EM1 from TerraGanix.com quickly improves soil structure by increasing nutrient availability and converting organic matter into soil humus. This improves seed germination and root growth, improves plant quality, size, color, flavor, nutrient value of fruits and vegetables, and improves shelf life. And when rain is not in the forecast, no worries. EM1 improves moisture retention in soils, helping reduce drought stress. Just like you prepare all else, prepare your crisis garden for maximum yields with EM1 from TerraGanix.com. Order now at TerraGanix.com or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. TerraGanix. Life's getting better.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
With Bill Salus, we were, cut off a little quickly there, Bill. So I want you to repeat that statement, the last statement you made, and expand on it, because we need to kind of get a full perspective. This is a really important book because it gets people back into their Bible. It gets people back into using their intellect as well as the scriptures, and then realizing it's also a tool to give to someone who may not be a believer or is a marginal one. When they read this, they realize that despite all the crazy events that are frightening literally everybody, no matter whether you're religious or not, but that God is there. And then, like the ancient Bereans or the sons of Issachar in ancient Israel, that we know these things because our God, like the king of Babylon had to say, Nebuchadnezzar had to say to Daniel, your God is God, after he came out of his 7 years of insanity. So very important. So let's continue. Repeat that statement, please.
Right, and well, what I was doing is giving an overview of the predicament in the Middle East that is ultimately going to erupt and create a worldwide quagmire, in essence, basically, that ultimately segues into the calls and demands of prophecies for one world order and those sorts of things. How do we get there? How does a world that's so diverse culturally, religiously, and whatnot get to a point where it feels compelled to have a global unity, a global government? Well, things build up to that point. But I would say this, when you talked about the God of the Bible is the real God, is that, he does use Bible prophecy, we're told in Isaiah 46, verses 9 and 10, to authenticate his sovereignty as God. In other words, he puts his trademark on the fact that he can tell us the end from the beginning, declaring the things that have not yet come. And so this is what's important for the listeners to understand, is that the Lord knows the end from the beginning. He gives us that information because he wants us to know about it, not because he wants to show off, not because he wants to impress us, but because he wants to inform us because he loves us. And so what we need to recognize is that there's a lot of information that he has written about. It's about a third of the Bible, and amongst that third of the Bible, I would say almost half, maybe not quite half of it, is about to happen in a very condensed period of time in the end times, and we're about to see it start to happen. What I was saying is that with Israel coming back in the land now, and the ancient Arab hatred that never went away, that has now been enveloped under the canopy of Islam, has shown its ugly head up against Israel ever since it became a nation, and it's going to climax, and we're told in Psalm 83, in a concluding Arab-Israeli war that's going to incorporate those countries that share common borders with Israel that are in the news today: Hezbollah, Syria. Hezbollah is in Lebanon. They'd be involved. Hamas out of the ancient Philistia. The Palestinian refugees as the tents of Edom. You've got Jordan. You've got Egypt, Saudi Arabia. Asaph, the psalmist 3,000 years ago, listed them all in the terms of his vernacular of his time. In a prophecy that comes together, they form a contemporary confederacy, crafty council to come to destroy the nation of Israel, that the name of Israel would be remembered no more. And we're told in verse 12 that they actually want to take the pastures of God for themselves as a possession. They want to come against Israel, and they want to take away the promised land from Israel. And I believe this prophecy is about to happen, and I explain it quite a bit of detail in Revelation Road. That is one big deal that really has been in a process of the making since 1948.
When we look at the little nation of Israel right now, it's a tiny sliver of land. I believe it's actually like a mustard seed. It's just not the land that was given by Abraham. But I've written in my book 13 years ago, Clay and Iron received 24 years ago, that the great Ali is coming, as it says in the Old Testament, that will outspan and be so much greater than the Aliyah of the ancient Hebrews. There were probably more than 3 million people that left the captivity in Egypt, and that they'll come from every nation on earth to the area. In other words, the thing's going to take over the land. Not only will Israel be victorious, but believers from all the tribes of Israel, from the Christians, the Jews, etc., receiving their Messiah, will return to the land from all over the planet. The great Aliyah will be a future event. It hasn't happened yet. It started with the founding of the nation, and this little nation of Israel will go through a tribulation. But the great Aliyah is yet future as well.
Well, let's just put this into perspective with the broader overview. You had mentioned earlier that, yes, Israel will come under judgment. That's in Daniel 12 and Ezekiel 20 and a lot of other places. And ultimately, out from that judgment, there will come a faithful remnant of Jewish people in the tribulation. We're told in Hosea 5:15 that they will actually recognize that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, their Messiah. And then he comes in Revelation 20, verse 4, and he sets up a 1,000-year Messianic kingdom. So we know ultimately there will be a faithful Jewish remnant that will recognize Jesus as the Messiah. But we're told in Zechariah 13:8 that 2/3 of the Jewish people in the end times will not recognize Jesus as the Messiah. They will actually be cut off in a genocidal campaign of the Antichrist. Okay, well, we're talking about the very end of time there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we have some important things to recognize between now and then, because now you're talking about the land and you're talking about Aliyah.
Right.
And a lot of people don't recognize, first of all, the very basics is in Genesis 15, God made an unconditional covenant with Abraham that he would give him land from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Many of us believe that could be from the Nile to the Euphrates. Now, at no point in Israel's history did they ever possess that time. Joshua possessed quite a bit of it, quite a bit more of it than Israel today. About 3,500 years ago, King David and King Solomon even possessed more than Joshua. They actually reached up through where Syria is today and connected with the Euphrates River. But after the split with the northern and southern kingdoms around 930 BC, Israel started to become lesser and lesser. And at this point, we have a little Israel today, about the size of New Jersey. But Israel in the long haul will ultimately, and when the Messiah comes, they will get all that land because God promised that unconditionally to Abraham through Isaac, Jacob, and the descendants. Now, most Bible teachers would say, okay, that's going to happen when Jesus returns in his second advent. I tell people that they're going to get some incrementally before then, between now and then. We've already seen that happen in 1967.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, every time they've been attacked, they've gained land, haven't they?
Yeah, and so I'll quote in Jeremiah 49 because it talks about the Ammonites, which should be northern Jordan, and they are involved in Psalm 83, and it says in verse 2 that Jeremiah 49, verse 2, therefore, behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, that I will cause to be heard an alarm of war in Rabbah of the Ammonites. It shall be a desolate mound, and her villages will be burned with fire. Then Israel shall take possession of his inheritance. Okay, so in the result of a war, probably the Psalm 83 war, the idea of victory of that war, Israel starts to gain some sovereignty over Jordan. It says in Isaiah 19, verse 18, that in Egypt 5 cities will speak the language of Canaan, and one of those cities will be called the city of destruction. Egypt appears to be in Psalm 83, and land east of the Nile presently. You could see, in an aftermath of a war, 5 cities speaking the language of Canaan, which is Hebrew. And I can go through and list in Obadiah 1, verses 19 and 20. It talks about the Gaza area coming back into the tribe of Judah. It talks about the West Bank coming back into the tribe of Benjamin. So, I believe that Israel's precedence, not just in 1967, but historically with Joshua and with King David and King Solomon, is that in the aftermath of wars, they will reach out and annex more territory. Now, I don't necessarily believe they're going to take all of the land between now and then.
But it's going to, you're right, it's probably going to happen. Even taking the Golan Heights was actually not only military victory, but it was necessary to even protect the villages below in the kibbutzes because of shelling and attacks. And now, of course, with the longer range rockets north of the Litani River that can go several hundred miles, the biggest danger, I know there's, we'll be back in just a moment.
What's the difference in all these online emergency food stores? The difference is Deseret. DeseretFoodStores.com has the best price on a 1-year supply of restaurant-style gourmet food starting at just $695 for 875 servings. For the highest quality food with a 30-year shelf life, experience the Deseret difference at DeseretFoodStore.com, spelled DESERET, or call 801-444-1444. DeseretFoodStore.com. Food for now, food for life.
In a coming-apart world, you need something to keep it tied together. That something is Atwood Rope, the highest quality rope made in the USA, from exotic braids for military, rescue, arborists, boating, tow line, shipyard, or decoration. Quality rope at affordable prices you and your customers can depend on. Find a dealer or shop online at atwoodrope.net. Enter promo code RADIO to receive a free 100 feet of 550 paracord. Atwood Rope, working to keep the world tied together.
That's what it sounds like when a burglar kicks in the door of a dark house that looks like no one is home. Don't let your home be the next target. Make it look like someone is home watching television with Fake TV. Fake TV is a small electronic device that makes the same light as a real television. So from outside, it looks like someone is home watching TV. Fake TV plugs in just like a lamp on a timer, but is far more convincing to burglars. Fake TV deters burglars, costs far less than an alarm, and is highly recommended by numerous police departments. Use it anytime you're away from home. To order your Fake TV for only $34.95, go to faketv.com or call 1-877-5-FAKE-TV. Each additional Fake TV is only $29.95. So get one for you and one for a loved one, for safety, security, and peace of mind for both of you. Call 877-5-FAKE-TV or go to faketv.com. Faketv.com, the burglar deterrent.
Iodine protection packs from hempusa.org are now in stock for immediate delivery worldwide. Our iodine protection packs include microplant powder, green life kelp, red palm oil, and our clear roll-on iodine that will feed the body the iodine it needs. All iodine protection packs are in stock, save you money, and ship for free in all 50 states. Visit hempusa.org or call 908-691-2608 today.
HempUSA.org has a revolutionary wonder food for detoxing the body and rebuilding the immune system.
Microplant powder can help unclog arteries and soften heart valves while removing heavy metals, virus, fungus, bacteria, and parasites. Plus, it cleans and purifies the blood, lungs, stomach, and colon. Keep your body clean with Microplant powder. Visit us at HempUSA.org or call 908-691-2608 today.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganix.com, spelled Terraganix.com, Terraganix.com. Or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
And Bill Salus, you did an excellent analysis of some of those important topics. Your book, Revelation Road, of course, is the first of the trilogy. Give us an idea, without giving too much of the secrets of the storyline. It's written as a novel that is a interaction between parents and a grandson. Give us more of the storyline of how this is written so people get an idea how you weave not only the novel, but also a study guide with scriptural references so people can kind of get a perspective of an issue that's probably coming up in the minds of many believers, and also just people that are nervous about what's happening to the world economy, what's happening to things like Fukushima, the Macondo drill site disaster 2 years ago that's still not settled, the weird climate we're seeing, literally strange signs in the heavens that are happening, everything that's going on. Tell us the storyline behind it.
Yes, it is a unique book. I'm not sure that one's ever really been written quite like it, and it was designed specifically to paint the end-time story into a novel, into a storyline, because understanding Bible prophecy is important, but knowing how it's going to play out and apply and living through it, and especially since we're probably going to see this stuff start to happen in our generation, or at least our grandchildren's generation, let's walk it through, let's play it out and understand it. And that's really what I attempted to do with Revelation Road and plan to do throughout the whole 3-book series. Now, what you have is a grandfather and a grandmother who are very concerned that their grandson Tyler has been birthed in the final generation, and all Tyler wanted to do was graduate. He graduates from elementary school. He's about to join his sister in a middle school, but his whole world gets turned upside down by the burgeoning Arab Spring that turns into an apocalyptic summer over there. Things continue to go out of hand, which it's doing already over there in the Middle East.
Oh, yeah, it's about to blow any day now. Literally, they could have a war that could shut off the Strait of Hormuz. We could have a rocket attack against the Iron Dome and the Green Pine missile system in Israel. And we would basically have America pulled into a conflict, not just with proxy nations like Syria and Iran, but basically with the great powers of Russia and China, because they've taken stances that are basically unacceptable.
Well, that's exactly it, and I paint those scenarios in the novel that they actually, there's actually a chemical attack coming into Israel from the proxies of Iran, causing Israel to respond expeditiously and decisively, ultimately doing some serious damage that Bible prophecies line up with Damascus and Iran and things like that.
Yeah, the whole empire of Elam, which is the entire oil area of western Iran, is exactly the territory prophesied to be destroyed, as well as the city of Damascus There'll be a hunt for hoot owls and the wild things, and because it'll be destroyed. And that's the longest continuously lived city that's recorded in history is the city of Damascus.
Well, okay, you just told them what's going to happen in chapter 4. 4 and 5, I think it was, that Damascus will get destroyed, as will Elam in the subsequent chapter. But, it's okay to give them part of the storyline here, but the point is, okay, so when those things happen, how does that affect an American family that's going through that in a tough enough time as it is with the economies we're going through right now, especially if that were to happen right now? And then ultimately, would that lead to future terrorism in America? I put together a scenario where it does, and not just
I can see it very easily. I mean, we're on a hair's trigger right now. We don't know how many events have been stopped by Homeland Security already. And we're not just talking about the kinds of events that we've talked about previously on this program, like 9/11. We're talking about real terrorism sponsored by Muslim countries against Americans, not only here but overseas. And the danger of international travel by anybody who's American or Western, the danger to our infrastructure with cyber attacks that now can cybernetically, they have a special force they've developed in Iran and in China with the Blue Army that can actually hack into our infrastructure and even shut down and cause station blackout of nuclear power plants. And this is one of the forms of warfare in the future.
Well, and there are very credible threats that are recently being announced by the Department of Homeland Security and legislators that Iran really could launch terrorism inside of this country, that they're well set up to do that, and that we don't even understand the depths of what they could do. Not just Iran, but the other terrorist entities. So, these are very legitimate concerns, and so Tyler's experiencing these things. Things are never the same for him, and then all of a sudden things just mushroom into a much, much worse situation.
Yeah.
And the storyline continues to go on about this poor grandchild, what happens to him and his family, and things like that. But there is hope in this book also, Dr. Deagle. There's a silver lining amidst the backdrop of the global gloom and doom that I put in the book, and I do present the book in such a fashion that it is actually a witnessing tool also. It presents the gospel at various places so that people can get an understanding of, if you're interested in knowing about Bible prophecy, and also, if that makes sense to you, then what about what the whole story is about? It's about a God who loves us, who sent His Son Jesus to die for us. So they get introduced to the importance of Bible prophecy. They get introduced to the hope in Jesus, so that they can make their choice if they want, because it will start to make sense to them when these things start to happen. And if they start to happen in the way the Bible describes, which we know they will, they're going to start getting more interested in the Lord and in Jesus and His plan of redemption and that sort of thing. So the goal is not to just throw a bunch of prophecy out there and intrigue a bunch of people with itching ears. The goal is to hit home and to say, look, this is what's going to happen. It's not a bunch of razzle-dazzle, entertaining things like Nostradamus. It's the real deal about a God who loves you and is concerned about your future and sent a plan of redemption, put a plan of redemption together through a Savior in Jesus Christ.
Right.
So I try to weave that into the book in a way where it's interesting. It's not all just bashing them over the heads with the gospel, but it's a way where
you're doing the real way to witness, which is to change people's perspective. And then when they change their perspective, then they change their minds. In other words, you're trying to lead them through almost like a parable of the novel so that they can understand the decisions to be made and the understanding that if this is already in the Bible and if God put it there for us now and for our generation, it meant that God loved us enough that a huge portion of the Bible written thousands of years ago was not for any other generation but ours.
Absolutely, and so that's interwoven into the book, and I think it's very readable, and the responses we're getting on it are very good. The reviews are coming back good at Amazon and elsewhere. So, and it is appealing to the broader audience, not just the Christians as well. So I would certainly invite your listeners to pick up Revelation Road at either my site, Prophecy Depot, or at Amazon.com. Those are your two primary sources. Do we have time to talk more about this Greater Israel?
Yes, let's do that. Yeah, we have more of this segment, another 3 or 4 minutes, I think, at least. And then we have another segment after that, so we have lots of time.
Okay, well, I do get into this in the book, Revelation Road, as well, that a lot of people aren't recognizing that if Israel wins a war in the Middle East and reduces and minimizes the threat of the enemies around them, the existential threats, the terrorism and whatnot, because of the Arab-Israeli war, then that will create a safer Israel. And a safer Israel will invite more aliyah. And as a matter of fact, in the aftermath of a war, I believe the Israeli government is going to encourage more aliyah to come over and make it worth their while to get more and more Jews, world Jewry, to come out of the nations of the world over to a safer Israel. And I believe in that process, they will become a greater Israel, territorially as well as with prosperity. They can certainly take over Arab spoils of war and things like that. And we know that this is very feasible because I believe a prophecy that follows this Arab-Israeli war is one that is really taught extensively by a lot of different Bible prophecy teachers this day, contained in the 52 passages of Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39.
Right, yeah.
It pictures a massive invasion in the Middle East with the coalition of 9 that we believe Russia spearheads, which would include countries like Iran and Libya and Turkey and Tunisia and several others.
And by the way, Iran is 50%. They will soon have parity of their army is Muslim. In fact, the special forces we've talked about last week with John Moore that are in America training in special tactics and weapons are Mongolian Muslims that are so-called from the Russian army here being trained in America.
Well, this is the other key point, because it says that Gog, this leader of this invasion, which we believe would be like the Russian president probably, he forms an evil plan, we're told in Ezekiel 30, I think it's verse 10. So,
right.
What is that evil plan? Well, it's very interesting that the majority of the bloc of nations apart from Russia are all Muslims. So he's going to somehow come in on the fervor of Islam because the Jews have just taken out a bunch of Arab brothers.
Keep that thought. We'll be right back. Bill Salus.
If you're going to take just one natural supplement, why not 7-in-1? That's Cardovite, a 7-in-1 tonic for life from NutriMedical.com. Cardovite contains 7 synergistic herbs to promote maximum wellness for your heart and whole body. Take Cardovite to detoxify, rejuvenate, and stimulate tissue regeneration of all your cells and organs. Cardovite from Dr. Bill Deagle's NutriMedical.com contains 7 super herbs: cayenne, garlic, hawthorn, valerian, milk thistle, ginkgo biloba, and bilberry. The 7 herbs in Cardovite act in such a way that each herb is enhanced in the presence of the others. For hypertension, heart attack, stroke prevention, sexual function, brain circulation, lowering cholesterol, and improving circulation, take Cardovite, the tonic for life. Order online at NutriMedical.com or call 888-212-8871. That's 888-212-8871. Or go to NutriMedical.com, spelled N-U-T-R-I medical.com. NutriMedical.com, bringing nutrition and medicine together.
Would it save you time to get the best quality water filters and the best quality storable foods from one company? You bet it would, and now you can at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. Big Berkey water filter products and great tasting, long-lasting, storable Wise foods are both now available on one website, BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. Wise foods, ready-to-eat meals are packed in airtight nitrogen pouches and come with a 25-year shelf life. Big Berkey water filters are powerful enough to purify treated, untreated, or even stagnant pond water. Combine Berkey water filters with Wise foods for an unbeatable preparedness combination. Get free shipping on every order over $50, and GCN listeners receive 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit Big, BERKEY, waterfilters.com or call 877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY, or go to BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com.
Love gardening but don't love seeing your hard work destroyed by wildlife? Then use the #1 most effective deer and rabbit repellent you can buy, Plant Skid. Plant Skid repellent protects gardens, trees, and landscaping by emitting an odor that browsing animals associate with predators. So animals avoid plants before they nibble, not after. Plant Skid is made in the U.S. from non-toxic, 100% organic, environment, and pet-friendly ingredients. Other repellents wash off in the rain. Not Plant Skid. It's guaranteed to outlast all other repellents. Plant Skid was the first animal repellent to be OMRI listed organic and now comes in liquid spray, powder concentrate, or easy-to-use granular. Just sprinkle around your garden. For proven protection from deer, rabbits, squirrels, and other small rodents, use PlantSkid. Member tested and recommended by the National Home Gardening Club. Find a dealer near you at plantskid.com. That's PlantSkydd.com. Ask about our new vole repellent when you call 800-252-6051. That's 800-252-6051. PlantSkid. Proven plant protection, guaranteed, or your money back.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Visit GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back, and we're joined by Bill Salus. His website is Prophecy Depot, DEPOT.com, the Book of Revelation Road. We were talking about the spoil that Gog and Magog. If you actually talk to somebody of Hungarian descent, they knew the land of Gog and Magog was Russia. And in fact, if you listen to the song that was sung by the Hebrews, called the Song of the Vilna Gayang, which is a poem written back at the time of Ezekiel, that song actually states, when you see Russia pass from the Bosporus into the Mediterranean, put on your Shabbat or Sabbath clothes because Messiah HaMashiach is coming. And this was known back at the time of Ezekiel, so that's 2,800 years ago plus. The spoil, of course, are going to come from, according to Hayseed Stevens, and I traveled in 1999 to the southwest end of the Dead Sea to say a prayer in Hebrew at the drill site of the Elohim Perazim, which is God of the Breakthrough drill site, is a salt dome 26,000 feet deep, salt dome, one of the largest salt domes on the planet. And the oil engineer FICO that discovered all the oil fields in the Sinai Peninsula and the gas fields in Zohar, which is one of the ancient cities mentioned in Genesis, that is the only gas fields left after they gave the oil wells back to the Egyptians, that the southwest end of the Dead Sea harbors the largest batholith of oil on the earth, which I told Hayseeds that I'd been revealed it was over 27 trillion barrels of oil, and it was renewable. In other words, it's the mother lode of all the oil in the Middle East.
Well, and, what we're talking about here is what Russia, and I think most scholars would agree with you, Dr. Deagle, that Russia is sort of the central leader of this Gog of Magog confederacy. So I don't think there'll be much argument with.
There's little few minor details, but the thing is, there is a time when they're going to want to take that spoil, because as much as even people say, look, even if we had perfect, let's say, energy from a vacuum or nuclear fusion reactors, 60 to 75% of all the things we use, from petrochemicals to plastics to everything you do, requires oil. So the oil energy isn't going to be over if we have alternative energy like wave energy, solar energy, whatever. You still need oil to have a modern world, don't you?
Well, we do suspect, a lot of us, that the plunder does incorporate oil as part of the overall plunder that they're coming after. But here's the point. You say at some time Russia will want that oil or want that spoil. Yeah. So let's evaluate that. Okay, when is that sometime? Because it is specified in Ezekiel 38, verses 8 through 13, when that sometime is. And that sometime is when Israel is regathered into the nations of the world, from the nations of the world, back into the land of Israel. They're dwelling securely in the midst of the land, without walls, bars, nor gates, and they're in receipt of this great plunder that Russia forms this coalition to come after. The question is...
In other words, it's a period of peace after the current conflicts that are going on.
Yeah, so does that Israel exist presently? Well, in some ways it does. It's a nation again. The Jews have been coming out of the land. It's in the last days. These are prerequisites. But there's a couple things that are pretty glaringly not fulfilled yet. One is they're not dwelling securely. You and I have been talking about the first half of the program, the existential threats all about them. They're not dwelling without walls. They've got a 403-mile wall, partition wall, dividing Palestinian terror out of Israel proper. And they're definitely on track for wealth. They've got large deposits of shale oil. You talked about stuff. They've found natural gas deposits outside of the coast of Haifa over the last couple of years and whatnot. But are they the wealthy Israel that would entice Russia to say, "Well, let's get a bunch of people together"? And it'd be like, just put this into perspective. It would be like, Washington, President Obama going, we want to get Canada and Mexico and all the rest of America to come against little New Jersey because New Jersey's got a bunch of wealth. So it's like, that's a big situation. Why would Russia put all these big countries and populations together to go against little tiny Israel right now for some untapped natural gas they found and some untapped shale oil they're working on? No, I don't think so. They're coming against an Israel that is prosperous, that's dwelling securely. And the Hebrew word of spoil that Russia's coming after is shalal. And if you look at the roots of it, it means to take spoil of the despoil. So in other words, I think not only will Israel become much more prosperous, it will also have spoils of war that it can get in the aftermath of Psalm 83, whereby they can dwell securely and they can tear down that partition wall because they'll feel freed from further Arab torment and terror. Remember that Mark Twain went over at the late 1800s into Israel, and it was a desolate wasteland, and his general comments were, who would ever want to come here? Well, here we are well over 100 and some years later, and Israel's a beautiful place, and it's leading in many different technologies, and it's becoming very prosperous. And Israel is being blessed, and that was a part of a prophecy in Ezekiel 36, that the Lord would multiply people on the land and do better for them even than their fathers. So we're seeing that happen, and ultimately Israel wins the war against the Arabs. They can dwell securely, and they can become very, very, even much more prosperous for a short while, because that's when Russia wants them. That's when Russia says, let's go get them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a time that definitely is coming, isn't it?
Well, it is coming, and it's probably coming very near. And matter of fact, it's so glaring because of the kind of national relationships that Russia has with Iran, the fact that Russia is trying to rebuild itself into a superpower, and it's got export contracts with so many different nations.
It's got a new contract for a new stealth jet that it's going to be launching next year in tests. It has all kinds of new anti-missile systems that it's put up. And it has a new advanced Topol-M missile with avoidance systems specifically to avoid our anti-missile system. So the launch next week of the Aegis anti-missile system to catch it in the launch phase before they target from when it's coming back into the atmosphere. Really, it ticks off the Russians because we have been several steps ahead of them in terms of their of disabling them from being able to make a first strike on America.
Right, and so what we see is that Russia is back up to its old pre-Cold War antics. In other words, it's done with
They only
capitalism.
changed hats. I don't think they ever really changed. I don't think they went away. I think, honestly, Russia's been devious all along, and the hardline Russians and the people behind them, including the globalists, have never, they just changed hats. The Russian Empire allowed the Eastern Bloc nations to migrate into the sphere of influence, knowledge, and technical transfer of Europe and the West, and even integration of the weapon systems in NATO. I think that Russia is just waiting for a time when they can kind of pounce. And now they weaponize China like crazy. Most of the Sukhoi jets are made now in China.
Well, they are. They're forging relationships based upon a lot of these weapon exports, and they're also watching Europe fall apart. They're watching America, fall apart as well, not becoming the superpower status it used to be. And so that you're right. They're poisoning themselves.
Yeah. That could easily be solved. We have traitors like Obama, who's a Marxist, communist, Satanist in our White House, who's stated publicly that he's a Sunni Muslim in Tahrir Square, both publicly and privately. We could easily solve our energy problems with the XL pipeline and with our own energy needs. And with alliances with Canada, there's no need for us to buy a drop of oil from the Mideast ever. And our biggest problem is our foreign policy of currying to the oil empires of Saudi Arabia and literally letting the Chinese take all the oil out of Iraq and buy it at $2 a barrel and sell it on the market or use it for their own industry. If it wasn't for us propping up China, it wouldn't exist because the globalists have pumped up their industry and sold oil after we've crushed the nation of Iraq, not the benefit of the Iraqi people, but for China and the China Oil Company, which is now the largest oil refining companies in the world, and all the new refineries on the planet are being built where? Along the coast of China. It's just ridiculous. We even ship oil to China to refine to bring back to America now rather than building new refineries because Obama won't allow licensing of new refineries in America.
Yeah, and well, whether Obama's a declared Sunni Muslim or
he has, it's by his own words,
Christian, he shot himself in the foot in both instances when he came out with his endorsement of homosexuality, because no Muslim is going to appreciate that, and most Christians are opposed to that. But you know, back on topic with respect to this Israel scenario. When we talk about what Russia's coming after, the spoil and whatnot, and the safe-dwelling Israel at the time, you know, this is when we can think, well, what is it? Is it a safer and a greater Israel? Yes, it's greater in wealth, because that's what Israel's coming after, but is it also a larger Israel? Because this is the point we were talking about. You know, the Jews, after wars, tend to expand. They reach out, they flex their muscles, they expand. They're going to need to, because they're going to have an influx of more aliyah, and they're going to need all the help they can get in the aftermath of a war, and it's going to be a safer place. So I could see Israel becoming a greater place. I already read in Jeremiah 49, it looks like Jordan's under sovereignty. Jordan's part of Psalm 83. Well, here's one for you. We're told in Ezekiel 39 that there's actually going to be a valley where the Russian invaders are going to be buried, and it's called the Valley of Hamongog.
Exactly.
East of some sea. Where's that? I believe that's in central Jordan today. They're not going to bury these guys in the middle of Tel Aviv right now.
No, I don't think so, exactly. Hamongog is actually the place where they bury Russia and all their Muslim allies.
Yeah. Are you going to a commercial, or can we develop that?
We're gone for this. The last of the hour. We need to get you back on, Bill Salus. It went so quickly, didn't it? Again, amazing. ProphecyDepot.com. The book is Revelation Road. Thank you, Bill Salus. Remarkable show today. Have you back on soon. Hour 2 coming up in Hour 3. You don't want to miss it with Dr. Mike Kaufman, Ph.D. His latest book, America Plundered. Stay tuned to the NutriMedical Report only on Genesis Network.
Hi, Ted Anderson announcing a great way to listen to radio on the telephone. By calling 760-569-7700, you'll be hearing GCNlive.com programs in seconds. Come to GCNlive.com, find your favorite host's dedicated phone number, and hear them 24/7. You heard me right. Every show has a dedicated phone number. Stop by GCNlive.com and bookmark their number today. And again, that's 760-569-7700. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.